Well, here's a man who it's very hard to buy a gift for because he's probably got everything he wants. Alpesh Patel from Profinian Partners.
I haven't got £1 million bonus.
Thanks to have you on the programme. Well, we'll get to the bonus in just a moment. But before we do that, let's look at the Times. And interesting to hear what François Hollande is proposing if he were to become the new leader of France. The cards are on the table. Manifesto is out there.
This is great. He's apparently something called a socialist. I had to look that up in the dictionary. Greatest hits. These are the things in his manifesto, and I love it. More income tax. Of course we should be paying more tax. I don't want to spend my own money. I want the government to do it for me. Expand the state. He wants to do that. Well, absolutely. I want the state to look after me. I hate working. 15% increase on tax on bank profits. Well, what the bank's going to do with it other than pay their overpaid staff? So it's good. That's good as well. I like that. Ban trading on all toxic financial instruments. In my view, all financial instruments are toxic. You just ban banks would be the best thing. This man is the greatest thing to happen to London since Paris lost the Olympics. Can I just say to all those French headquartered banks who are watching right now in Paris, London is open for business. Please elect this man and set up your HQ in the United Kingdom, because that's what they'll do.
I mean, you know, there's a lot of cynicism in there and a lot of irony in there, Alpesh. But if we look at this and look, you know, in France, Sarkozy is behind this man in the ratings. He has lost that AAA credit rating.
Yeah.
Things are tough for the French people. And, you know, Monsieur Hollande is coming up with a lot of vote-winning ideas here.
Absolutely.
He's also talking about lowering the retirement age to 60. I mean, gosh, the strike action and the nationwide strike action going on in France when Sarkozy was trying to get that through.
Yeah.
You know, if he did get into power, which many are saying he might well do, what do you think that will mean for the Eurozone at the moment?
It's how to win an election. What you do is you attack one small group of people which are loathed by everyone. It's the bankers I'm thinking about, not the politicians. And what you do is you say, I'm going to make sure that the rest of you don't have to work as hard and the state will look after you, make all those lovely promises and stuff the country in the long term. But hey, once you're in the Elysee Palace, what does it matter? You'll break the promises. He'll be forced into breaking these promises because his country can't afford to keep these promises.
Staying in the Eurozone, and David Cameron speaking in Davos yesterday, his speech not gone down very well.
I don't know, the Gulf News had exactly the opposite headline, which is he was a very pro-Europe. I love this speech. I tell you why. In the UK, we're not in the Euro, and we have the Olympics. So we have every right to tell the rest of Europe, in fact the rest of the world, how they should be running their countries. And not only that, the United Kingdom has a successful monetary union with Scotland. It's been going for about 300 odd years, so it's been going a heck of a lot longer than Europe, and the American monetary union as well. We have absolutely every right to tell everyone else what they should be doing.
It's a bit rich though. He arrives there, they say, talking about plans for the Eurozone. They said, well, if you care about it so much, get involved.
Of course not. You've got to keep objective distance in these things. It's far better to be outside and telling people how to run their affairs rather than be in the
but
midst
many in the UK and many manufacturers in the UK and many small businesses in the UK are very concerned about this strong stance coming from David Cameron and some of the Conservatives as well, because the trade relationship with Europe is so important to so many businesses here.
Thankfully, the trade relationship is not dictated by the politicians. It's dictated by the business people who would just get on and undertake that trade. The EU is the world's largest trading bloc. $12 trillion of GDP every single year, and that's going to continue regardless of what Mr. Cameron's relationship is with Mr. Sarkozy. So I don't think there's a problem with what he says in Davos at all. And in fact, a lot of these trade people you're talking about, they're very glad that Britain is out of the euro.
Well, let's have a look at Gulf News, because as you say, they're also, you know, giving us their take on what's going on in Davos, and they've sort of talked to a lot of business leaders and economists there who say hope amidst uncertainty as panel examines political component of crisis, and they're saying the euro is likely to split. Now, this is the thing with Davos, isn't it? There's the keynote speeches, but it's all the soirees, it's all the private conversations that go on, it's all the sort of speculative action that's happening in the background, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. You're sitting there on stage. It's a boring conference. You're a boring academic.
Have you been?
No, because it's a boring conference. You're a boring academic.
You haven't been, Alpesh. How can you say it's boring? You haven't been there.
I watched the coverage.
You're saying our coverage is boring?
No, I'm saying the content of Davos is boring. The coverage was fantastic. The camera angles were particularly good. So what you fantasize about exciting things where you can use words like destruction and disillusion, and you say that the euro is going to split. Of course it's not. The bigger, wealthier countries don't want the principle of the euro to be shattered, and the weaker countries are desperate to cling on to the ankles of the Germans and the stronger economies. So, of course, it's not going to happen, but it's, as I say, it's some academics daydreaming to keep themselves awake.
Well, one of the big things that we'll be talking about, those tax and all the austerity measures in the Telegraph, highlighting that paying cash in hand for jobs, diddling the country out of millions, billions in tax revenues.
Yes, this story about that the UK tax authority is going to be particularly going after builders, for instance, who are allegedly renowned to take cash in hand. There is a far simpler way in which to find out whether or not somebody's taking cash in hand, because the tax authorities will have the address of all the people who are down as builders and so on. If you just look on Google Street Maps, the photos are taken at about 6 a.m. The cars in the driveway, if they're Mercedes and Rolls Royces outside a builder's home, you've probably got a pretty good idea which way it's going.
But I mean, obviously that's, you know, an idea, but when it comes to policing the black market, the cash-in-hand market, it's incredibly difficult, isn't it? I mean, if they could have nailed this one down, they would have done years ago.
The problem that they have here is that any one individual, there won't be large sums of money, whereas when you're going for the super rich, you know that the resources you're targeting towards one individual, you're going to get a bigger sum. So what they've got to do here, the trick that they're going to have to do here is grab a whole load of people and get small sums of money from each. And it could be, and some of the figures estimated, it could be $500 million a year, which is no small change. It's just that I think the amount of resources which are deployed will be disproportionate to how much they'll recover. But the more important thing is that we're talking about it. And that's what I think HMRC are hoping for, that because we're talking about it, the cash-in-hand aspects will stop, and that will increase the revenue, not them having to chase it.
Now, one other business story that is likely to dominate the agenda today, though, is the RBS payout to Stephen Hester. A big cause for concern for many people, but then on the other hand saying, well, actually, he's in charge of the bank, he's turning around the bank, he's owed this money.
Apparently, if the share price had gone up, he would have got even more. I mean, I don't want to be a French socialist about this. I'm quite glad that he's got £1 million. My problem with it is that it's going to encourage more people to become bankers. I mean, that's a bigger worry than the amount of money he's got.
All right, well,
let's
swiftly moving on, talking about people with lots of money. Newt Gingrich and his political path, the International Herald Tribune looking at the former House Speaker and now candidate giving new life to old hard style. That's their take on it. Do you think he's injecting new life into this or not?
Can I just say, on this wonderful programme, after Mitt Romney won the second primary, I said that the person in the lead, and it was you who asked me the question, the person who will actually become a front runner eventually will be Newt Gingrich, and who's in fourth place. So the BBC broke that, forecast.
Alpesh, just raking in the glory, isn't he? I'll remind you of some of your quotes, you know, when you say the euro will never split.
and they have to move to the right because they don't want to fight on the same battleground as Barack Obama. So I think Newt Gingrich is going to be the front runner.
You're not the only one saying that, I might add. But anyway, thank you very much.
I said it before the rest of them.
Alpesh B.Patel, for looking at the newspapers. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.